No.
No, we don't. I just muted myself.
But no, to get rid of the recording, you have to go up there.
Just stick down.
The little blue thing doesn't go away.
What, just-
Keep the videos.
So the next thing on the agenda is the minutes of November 2nd, and Dan had some concerns. And you just want to go over that briefly?
Yeah, there, a couple of them is, we just spoke about the fact, we remember discussing that the CIP committee will meet early in the spring, maybe instead of in the fall, but don't recall them giving a comprehensive plan of the town properties. That is listed in here that we're gonna assemble a committee to do that, but none of us recall it being that we were gonna have the CIP do that. And then the other part that I had was where it says that we stated that there was request for recordings, and that we all agree that the whole purpose of that conversation was that the recordings were never
The request was taken.
the request was denied, right, trying to put it a little more down, but that, so if we could have those two things changed and kind of table these.
So we can still make a motion to pass the minutes and correct it.
Corrected,
We just won't sign them.
correct. And there's one other correction. At the end, after we came out of the meeting last week, we approved last time, we approved a submission of a grant for $7,000 from the police department,
Yeah,
and that's not in there. That needs to be in there.
okay. Is that your question?
Yeah, I just need to make that sure that's in there, so that's part of the grant is you have to show the minutes.
Yeah.
that it was-
Yeah, no, that vote was taken, so yeah. We'll
Thank
make
you,
sure.
sir. We got
All right, so,
duly noted that.
Yep.
Thank you.
so we will make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
And then we'll sign it next time.
We'll sign them when they're corrected.
Okay, so I make a motion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, or a second motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Mhm.
Good. All right, John, you're on.
Okay, the building code. We are proposing, the planning board is proposing that we take another pass at this, and this would not invent anything new in the way of construction rules or regulations. This is more a housekeeping situation. It would authorize the select board to set the building code fees. The last time it was done is 2002. And inflation has gone about 65% since then, so the taxpayers are making up the difference right now. The other thing is a appeal. The town years ago in 1974 roughly did appoint a building code and a fire code board of appeals. It's been staffed in some decades and not staffed in other decades. It's currently unstaffed. We do have a board of adjustment which handles appeals from other groups, not from fire code and not from board of adjustment. But state law allows us to assign the duties to one board, to one appeals board. So we could, by vote of the town meeting, assign the building code appeals and the fire code appeals to the board of adjustment. So those are the two primary things. The other thing we would like to do is to just go back through the warrant articles and collect all the warrant articles that have been passed in past years. There are very few, but bring them up into one document so they're in one place. The procedure is to hold some public hearings so we can hear what people have concerns for, what the public has. We also need to pass it by the attorney to make sure he's happy with it. And then the warrant article on the March ballot would be very brief. It would say something like, do you approve of the amendment to the building code for assigning fees to the selectmen, et cetera, et cetera. So it would not give the full wording of the building code changes, but it just a summary. And the deliberative session may not change this. It has to be done through public hearings. So if anyone has concerns, the public has concerns, they have to express those in the public hearings, which will be held perhaps December, but certainly in January, we'd have at least two of them.
Held by who? Us?
The planning board has to hold them by state law. So the question is for you, gentlemen, is this approach acceptable to you? Do you have any suggestions, any comments? And then we'd like your approval to submit a draft document to the attorney for his opinion.
What is the current procedure for increasing building?
The
Permits?
town meeting has to vote it. The town meeting did establish it in 2002, so any revision to it has to come from town meeting currently. So the building code law says you can either have the actual numbers of your fees in the building code, or you can assign the duty of adjusting the fees to the select board. And that saves going back to the town meeting every 2 or 3 years to update the building code as inflation runs wild.
So why not just have a warrant article that gives the board of selectmen the authority to increase the building permit fees?
Well, the other thing is we have Board of Appeals. The state law requires a Board of Adjustment that handles everything except the fire code and the building code. It also requires the building code Board of Appeals. So you'd have to, if we got an appeal from the fire code or the building code today, what you'd have to do is you'd have to find 5 volunteers, appoint them, give them some minimal training, and then reestablish the board. The voters did authorize you to establish a building code Board of Appeals back in '74. And it's been in existence off and on since then. The other thing that would be nice to do is just have one document that contains the very few things that we have in warrant articles that were passed over the years. There's a warrant article that says if you want to put in a building, you have to have an approved septic system. That kind of thing.
And then if you put in the septic system, that's when you're required to get an occupancy permit, right? Or is that state law?
No, yes, there is the warrant article. If I could find it. An occupancy permit is required for any dwelling with a new septic disposal system. Such permit to be issued upon receipt by the town of a certificate of operation approval issued by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. So that was March of 1974 that they passed that one. So we're not inventing anything new. There's the building code in Canaan is the state building. The state says you must follow the electrical code, the plumbing code, the residential code, et cetera, et cetera.
Snow load.
Yeah, so insulation, gotta meet the energy code.
Yeah.
So we're not changing any of that.
It's just changing the fact that we as a board can make adjustments to the building permit fee without having to put it on.
And the Board of Adjustment will handle all appeals.
But this specifically says to prepare a Canaan building code document.
Well, I'll give you an example. This is a draft, and it's gonna go through the attorney, it's gonna go through a couple of public hearings, so it will change.
Yeah, there is.
Yep.
You'll find the right file.
Let 'em know.
The fire chief and who's also the building inspector is satisfied with this approach.
It's because he's no longer in the building trades.
But this, for a guy who's doing work. For a guy who's doing work, this makes no difference.
So what are you looking for tonight, Tom?
Just your concurrence that we should proceed with holding a couple of public hearings and listening to the public and then fly it by the attorney to see what legal paragraph he wants to change. No, the attorney's gonna wiggle those last two paragraphs that are in there.
And the public hearing is to do just what it sounds, members of the public who want to
Yeah.
speak out for or against or ask
Yeah, and
questions
say-
or all of the above.
We should do this or we shouldn't do that or whatever.
Brainstorming.
Right,
session,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
So why now?
Well, a couple of things triggered it. I've been watching the transition of the building inspector from one person to another and kind of overseeing that process just as an interested third party. I work closely with Cheryl and was seeking my advice on a few occasions. So I became aware that the building permit fees hadn't been touched since 2002. And then inflation is 65%. So that's one thing. The other thing on Facebook, there's been a lot of chatter on Facebook about this is what building code is in Canaan, and somebody else has a different opinion. And there's a lot of misinformation floating around as to what the building code in Canaan is. And it'd be nice to have one document that says, here it is.
What is the building code in Canaan?
Well, it's that document in front of
State
you.
document,
Right.
Period, state building code.
Right,
Yep,
yeah.
exactly.
We have these codes, but don't seem to be following them, because I know the state put it in effect that you're supposed to have a concrete slab if you put in a mobile home. And I know of two within the recent 5 years. They've put in trailers. And I don't believe there's a proper septic system or a well.
Yeah, well, that's another.
And
bailiwick.
they've been living in there for 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
That's an
So-
enforcement question, which the building inspector is supposed to inspect.
And I
Or
don't know
at
how
least
they got
approve.
a occupancy permit to live in there.
Probably didn't.
You don't need one.
Town says you need one.
Well, the state says you need one. What do you do? Throw them out?
No, but
And we own them.
So
I had to follow the rules when they put a new trailer in, put the other one out, put a slab in.
I think there's a lot of where the confusion comes in, so I just heard, well, the town says you need one, and then it says, well, no, the state says you need one. So. Does it have to be adhered to by the state regulations in the town of Canaan?
Well, we passed a warrant article in the town of Canaan that says you need an occupancy permit if you're gonna put in a trailer and you need a septic system. Yeah.
Right,
And so the town passed that and so it's a town rule, it's also a state rule. And how we enforce it is up to you guys.
Does that include mobile homes or trailer?
Yeah.
trailers?
travel trailer.
I was just gonna say two things. One, we also have stop signs all over the place and occasionally people don't stop at those stop signs and it's an enforcement measure. You know, if there's a police officer there, you're gonna get pulled over. If not, you know, so if we don't enforce the laws that we have, but I mean, fundamentally, the building code in Canaan is the state building code. The other thing that I would say is from my perspective, I mean, there are really three elements to this, three reasons to do it. But in many ways, I think the most important is aggregating all of the various town meeting votes over the years and putting them in one document. And I think, you know, not to point fingers, but the issue of the Cozy Connor sale and the property around that may be a really good example of, you know, we had several different votes at different town meetings, and rather than having for the building code, rather than having to go back through and make sure, okay, did that get superseded by another vote? It's all gathered in one place. And so, you know, whether it's the building inspector or somebody looking to build in Canaan, it's all in one place and you don't have to go back to the town warrant of 62 and find out, you know, was there a vote that we missed?
Well, frankly, as far as the enforcement piece, we get that on our plate in a couple different situations
Yeah.
where, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of teeth to push on that.
Did you have a question? Andy?
Yeah, who is the building inspector in town that's going around inspecting projects?
John Hennessy.
Okay, so all electrical, plumbing, everything is truly getting inspected now, framing is getting inspected? Or,
I think more so than it was.
okay,
I don't know that he's doing. Yeah.
from a builder's standpoint, that's what I would love to have. I would love to have an inspector come around. Look at the plumbing that's done, look at the electrical that's done, look at the framing that's done to make sure it's done to code, because the codes do change very quickly. So there is no way that a builder or a plumber or an electrician can stay completely up to date on those codes, and a second set of eyes is great. So this is a good step in an excellent direction. But I think that your building inspector needs to be able to have some enforcement measures to be able to put a stop on projects that are wrong and some way to enforce that, like what Dale's saying.
But the whole enforcement question is not really part of this. This doesn't
Right.
change any of the rules. The enforcement real rules before this document and after this document are the same. This doesn't add or change or relax any enforcement.
So you want to have the public hearings first and then send this to the attorney?
Well, we might send a draft to him now and say, you see anything you want that's major?
I would rather go to the attorney before we have people look at it and then say.
Well, we can do it either way, yeah. I mean, it's not a big document, as you can see. I mean, he should be able to review it very quickly and say, yeah, that's close enough, go have a public hearing.
What do you think? Wanna do that?
Yeah,
All right,
it makes sense to have him look it over and then.
all right. So then can you get this sent out to the attorney and let us know what he says?
Well,
Anything else? Any other questions on that?
actually, can we hang on, fire tablet, would you please identify yourself?
Now we're gonna figure it
If not, we're gonna boot you from the meeting. All right,
out. So then you just do it here,
hang on, this would take this. Go ahead and start the next thing.
and so then you-
So the next thing on the agenda is designation of Prospect Hill Road from point 255 miles north of Canaan Street to the end of the class 5 maintenance of Black Hill Road from Prospect Hill Road to a point 0.8 miles west of Stevens Road as highways to summer cottages. I believe this is to give up plowing for that area.
Correct. This is the steep hills.
We have Bob here.
Bob is not here tonight. I can speak to it.
Okay,
This is to save on plowing. There's no homes out there. There's 2 log landing yards at either end of that
Yep.
thing where the plows can turn around at. And it's the section on Clark Hill Road is the steep hill section that used to be basically exposed ledge for many, many
there
years.
is a public cemetery there.
There is, but they're closed during plowing season anyway, so. And this would not prevent people from driving through. There would be blocks in the inbound lane, but certain people could drive around it. I thought there was one up at the top of,
No, the cemetery's over there.
My understanding is, from talking to them, they're gonna block it off right after the cemetery, so they can back into the
Yeah.
cemetery to turn around.
It's beyond the cemetery, maybe an eighth of a mile. It's in that corner. The log landing is right there, is where they're gonna turn around.
On the upper part or the lower part of the hill, if you were to come.
It's on the
off
upper-
Stevens
Well,
Road,
Yeah.
it'd be on the upper side.
Yeah.
Coming in from
Stevens.
It's about right in,
Stevens, yeah.
about right between the cemetery and the gate to that camp.
Yeah.
Right in that corner.
I just want, we did get one no vote on this from the postal service who said. It would delay service and they'd have to turn around at one end and turn around the other end to service the homes, and just wanted to make sure that was known in public, but. Other than that, there were no other,
Do we have any comments? Anybody online? Karen?
That's right.
anyone online have a,
You have to go to chat and see if it's there. Doesn't have any marks.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no chat or no hands raised.
All right,
So is there, I have a question though, is there any notice given to the people that own that
I think
camp out in
that's
there?
what we're gonna have to do before that
Yes.
goes into effect.
Yes,
I mean, it's 7
Any
days, at least
property
7
owner
days
on
you
that
have
road,
to do.
just like, I'm assuming every property owner was notified about the roads being ground up and all that.
we got a flash email out to probably more than just them.
But it wasn't
So
individually.
I would,
It was not,
Is
yeah,
that what Scott's asking?
I would have, I don't have a problem with that, but I wonder, I remember it's been brought up a couple times, and I can't remember the name of the road, but we discussed it when we were in the office, you and I and Bob. The road that's off River Road that we talked about, it was a private road,
Gore Road.
Yeah.
and what is it? River Road?
yeah.
So, I mean, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard a half a dozen times that the reason that we were plowing that is because they were buddies with Bob Scott and we ended up making a deal where we would maintain it.
No, that's been in effect for years and years.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, you don't do summer maintenance.
No,
It's just winter
no.
maintenance.
Just,
And at that particular time, when that first went into effect, there was only one person living up there. Now there's
Right,
what?
3 or 4 at
3 or 4
least.
yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's a class 6 road, the part,
Okay.
the part that you don't maintain. So
Okay.
it's class 5 that you do maintain, class 6 beyond that.
Okay, all right, perfect. So I'm glad I brought it up while we're all here, so we got the real deal instead of bits and pieces all over the place, so.
So I would suggest notifying the property owners, and if there's no discussion, then I say the consensus. I'm assuming the consensus is to go ahead
Yeah,
and give it up.
I'm for it.
no, not give it up, just highways to summer camps, so no plowing.
No,
There'll be
so,
blocks,
yeah,
yeah.
that's what I meant. Give up
Yeah.
snow and plow.
People are still
Yeah.
legally allowed to drive on through regardless of how.
So do we have to give them permission to use snowmobiles on the road? Because I'm
Yeah, you
pretty
do.
sure we do.
Yes,
In Grafton, they have a sign that says not winter maintained.
yeah,
Right,
So-
it will say passage your own risk.
Yeah,
no winter
not
maintenance sort
maintained.
of Thing.
yeah.
Does
It-
this
it-
change the highway block grant at all?
No, it does not.
Okay.
It does not change anything else.
John, thank you.
We will notify everyone and
Just a quick question on the utilities, because there are power lines that run up through there. How does that work?
if there was an emergency, Bob Cushman and I spoke about that. They would bring out one of the machines and clear a path for any sort of emergency situation. Hopefully,
In the middle of your mouth.
Yeah.
That could be interesting if we get a 40-inch snowstorm,
oh, yeah, God forbid, yeah.
so.
Good.
Look, I think we should give it a shot. I know we've tried to do this in the past, but there were people actually living there.
Yeah.
And they're not living there anymore, so.
I'm up for giving it a shot. I think
Okay.
It's a resource that we don't necessarily need to use.
We'll notify the property owners in the area and
Okay.
we'll come back with any other.
Okay.
I'd like to suggest that we measure the mileage on Prospect Hill from the junction with Clark Hill. Rather than, if you take it from Canaan Street, that's a long stretch, and the surveyors like to lay it out horizontally, and the trucks like to measure it as a roller coaster. To
Yes.
get different numbers.
You would. The reason we did it from that is that's the open section rather than the closed section. We didn't want to include any mileage that was outside of what would be open year round essentially.
Okay,
So we had and yes, we understand that it's not a completely dead accurate, but it's close enough for,
or perhaps in the motion you could put in, you're gonna plow as far as the culvert of such and such brook, or whatever the landmark is.
It's not a motion at the moment. It's a
Yeah.
Proposal that he's going
Yeah.
to notify
Yeah.
the homeowners or the landowners first.
Yeah.
Before we make,
But when you make the decision, it'd be nice to have a landmark that,
there's accurate landing yards on either side, but we'll get an accurate.
rock that looks like a band.
Yeah,
Yeah, it looks like a
Oh,
rock.
no, we can't, like,
The
So
next
did
one.
those barriers get put in place today? That
We did.
they did?
Yeah,
Are they reflective on both sides of those? Because if I go wheeling up through there tonight,
I couldn't tell you that.
That would mean you were driving backwards on the wrong side of the street. If it was,
what if I swerve? Don't know. I didn't see it. It's an obstacle.
Well, it's on the inbound lane.
Yeah, it's on the inbound lane, not the outbound
That,
lane.
that road's a lane and a half this wide, if that.
What areas are placed in?
No, they are not placed yet.
Those barriers were placed correctly, Dale, yes? Is that what I just heard?
That's what I heard.
You were
They were
instructed
taking
to
them
put
up
those?
today. Whether
Okay.
they did or not, I don't know.
They may have been taken up there. I hope that Bob has not placed them there because he has not had authority to do that yet.
Well, I was told that they put them in one lane, so I'm assuming they set in one lane already.
I will check with Bob.
I gotta go over that way tomorrow.
And they do need to be. We do need to make sure that there is plenty of reflective, because if they are gonna be open to snowmobile.
Yeah. There'll be,
Somebody's.
Yeah,
gonna come up
somebody's
there
gonna hit 'em.
on and find that.
Yeah.
You gotta put a road close, had one lane road, had whatever you wanna put on it, because if you're blocking one lane, that means you're forcing traffic into the other oncoming lane.
Yeah.
Technically.
All right, anything else? Okay. Sawyer Hill Road Cemetery, is this the pine tree that's been down for a long time, it's not still been cut?
Yes,
it's just-
and-
okay, go ahead.
Right,
yeah,
I'm Sharon Everett.
Yeah.
I'm the one that keeps hounding you all about
no
this.
worries.
There's a huge oak tree in the cemetery and it's losing its branches. And I mean, 2 years ago, we had a 24-inch branch come down and take down the lines and the pole and everything on our land that fell off of that tree. The main trunk of that tree is really rotten and there's a lot of dead branches up in it. One branch fell down this summer and Barry took care of it and so forth. But there's a lot more that are gonna come down and they're gonna hit the stones in the cemetery. And I've asked people to come up and look at it, but I don't think anybody has yet.
So is it just one tree or is there?
It's just that one big oak tree.
There's 2 oak trees that are up there that Bob looked at it just the other day.
You
He
did
said
think-
there were 2 and they're both losing limbs and they both need to come down. Just our, off the cuff estimate is somewhere in the 10,000 range because you need to take it down with a crane bit by bit so that branches are not falling either into the road or onto the stones. So,
The main trunk of the tree could stay there and rot for years, but it's
Right.
the
Yeah.
branches up top.
But yeah, I don't know, traditionally, we use Tommy and he's pretty reasonable and,
I would have him look at it, I think
It's about a tenth of that cost.
yeah,
And he don't need a crane,
he's good.
he took trees down in my yard.
Yeah, he's still an old school roper.
Yeah.
And he knows what he's doing and he's reasonable. So get a hold of Tom Dunkerton.
Dunkerton,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and Tom will come up and take a look at it. And it'd
Thank
be
you.
nice if we could get that down before it starts getting heavy with snow. And I'm sure Tom could make that happen.
And
I
you
use
could have
it
it
for
cut
fire?
for five, yeah.
It's like,
You cut it up for five and just sell it for $500 a cord down.
And you know what? We were just talking with the human resource officer before the meeting started, and she's having requests for heating assistance and firewood, so maybe there's somehow that we can get that processed and keep it with the town for that. Is that an option, or how does it
I
work?
think that's a liability for us.
Yeah,
Like too much of a, yeah,
and you'd have to have somebody there regulating who can get it and do they have, permit, stuff like that.
Many years ago, on the way into the transfer station, they used to throw all the trees just before the transfer station. It was first come, first served.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess not.
Well,
So we'll buy it at $500 a cord instead, Mark. Seems to make some sense.
And just leave it stacked beside the road.
well, yeah, actually, that's what part of my thinking is that we'll leave it stacked and if people want to go and get pieces.
yeah.
Well, maybe
Technically,
some of
that's
the
the
places
plan.
I'm gonna be wants the wood too, so. we gotta
Yeah.
figure that out. So-
Right, possibly. Yep.
In that plan, it would work fine, but you start cutting trees alongside the roads, that's technically the landowner's tree on the
Yeah.
road, and if they come in and see you picking it up and they planned on it.
Right. If
Something we
with
don't
other
want to
trees, right.
advertise.
Right, but
This
we
one
don't-
here is town.
The town was, this case, yes.
Right.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying generally.
Yeah.
You will get a price quote.
Okay.
All right, next thing on the agenda is the fuel oil and propane bid.
Yes, it's gonna be pinch to say the least.
So the suburban bid is already out of date. They only gave us a date in December.
I would not worry about that at all. They understood what was going on. And they should have understood what was going on. But
So according to this, the heating oil prices vary. Or
yes,
how variable?
that
Do they have a cap on it? I mean, it's only gonna go up 10 a day
I will,
or just as soon as we sign the contract, it goes up so much.
yeah, exactly. I will check with Irving on when the price will move.
Also, it says, the propane is a fixed price, but it's for 6,200 gallons, so I'd be curious of what we use annually. I mean, is that gonna get us through 1 month? I don't know.
I will
I
check
would
it.
hope it's more than that, but I mean.
They should be able to tell us that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supplier for.
Right, yep. So with that said, are we saying we need to,
What's the deadline on this then?
Well, the 30th for the Irving one, so.
Yeah,
30th of November.
I will get back to both bidders and
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
get more info.
Right.
That's the contract.
exactly, yeah. Right, so that's the other,
Well, this is actually until we've already passed on that.
through December 1st, okay. good.
No, so that's the contract period, so, and it's actually, this is up until the 10th.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah. We'll get more info.
Um,
And if we.
well, I don't think we should, because I mean, our next meeting isn't until December, so.
Yeah. We
I
will,
think what we need to do is you find out. What the deadline is and the cheaper bid is where we would go.
It will come in, yeah.
okay, I will report back to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Cheaper bid, providing that cheaper bid's not just gonna
There'll be some
skyrocket it.
Yeah, no,
Make sure
it's a fixed price. Yeah,
Whatever
yeah,
the cheaper
fixed price.
rate is where we'll go.
Yep, that's fine.
and fixed rate between dates, not gallons.
Yeah,
Or
right.
cubic yards or whatever they're.
Can we check and choose? Can we use propane for?
Yes, we can. We can use
We could.
propane from one and fuel oil from another. That's not unreasonable.
So I would say then, right, whoever can offer us the least expensive fixed price is where we'll go. And I know if you call Lowe's and Home Depot 10 times, they drop it.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
Okay,
phone calls are cheap then.
I will get info and report back to you.
Cool, thank you.
If you're gonna do it the way you're talking about doing it, which makes sense, do you not need some sort of motion just to give him the authority to?
We're not giving them the authority to sign, but we'll come in and sign for it once.
Yeah.
Good call.
Okay. Update on the water system improvements. So, no, John,
No, John, right now. John's got other things to deal with.
so do you have?
Yes.
update for us?
Yes, we are 97% completed on the intake from the lake out. And the last little pieces have been installed. There's a couple other minor things to be adjusted, but it is up and running and all good. And in fact, we're putting together the bid for the proposal for the next connection from the plant over to the tank. And there were some other,
Chief Drive.
yeah, and there were some other pipe issues between the plant and the main feed down Canaan Street into the village area. So we're really, we have, of course, we have the invoices in from the contractors and the bill is out to DES to get money back from them. So,
Okay.
and we're good to go for the winter season so far. So
All right.
You got a question?
Yeah, I was just curious how many properties we have to cross to go from the plant.
That'll be a new venture because there's no pipeline there now.
Right.
so.
Yeah. I think it's a very low number and I want to say 4 or 5, but we can find
I
out
think
pretty
it's
easily.
close to, I think it was
Yeah.
5 or 6.
Maybe we should-
I don't remember it, but
Yeah,
It makes sense to do it the way,
It
as
does.
opposed to the way it's running now.
Absolutely, I totally agree, but maybe. Just, and I know it's nothing we need to jump on immediately, because this isn't happening until after winter, but maybe we try to be a little bit more proactive and get with these homeowners and landowners. A little bit more ahead of time, so we don't have a debacle.
It should not be a surprise that we are gonna,
Just remember, the last time we did have an agreement with the landowners.
Right, and then the logger
The
came in
logger
and-
came in
yeah.
and said, no, I don't
Right.
care, I'm gonna do what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe taken in, I
Any-
agree though.
Any
Yeah.
questions on the water system? All right, so we moved right along here. Do we have any other business?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to ask permission that Sugar Hill Road, I'm sorry, I'm Lori Rogers Gowan. I'd like to ask permission that Sugar Hill Road have a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit posted. We're not asking for any kind of enforcement of that because we understand that the state posts dirt roads at 25 miles an hour.
Is that true, Sam?
Yeah, you legally can't post a road less than 25 miles an hour. Yeah. The town can't officially do that. I mean, if
We're asking to do it ourselves. We're not asking for enforcement. Other than that, it slows down delivery drivers. It's a one-lane, dead-end dirt road,
It's
six
public road, right?
houses.
Yeah,
And all of us would like it to be slowed down. I mean, 25 miles an hour, it's just ridiculous for that road. It's not safe. Out of the 6 houses, we've had 3 dogs hit and killed by delivery drivers. You know, do we need to wait till it's a person? We did post it.
I would dare say that the delivery drivers aren't doing 25 miles an hour as part of it. You know,
Oh,
I'm not-
no.
I agree with
But-
what,
But the
Yeah.
one thing is that with that sign, you know, we stop them and say, could you please slow down? And they say, what's the speed limit? And we say, the sign says 15. Oh, sorry. And then they do usually slow down for us.
Lori, how long of the road is that? I'm not familiar with it, so.
I'm not
it's like a
sure.
quarter mile.
yeah, no,
It's not very,
And it's plowed by the town?
it is plowed by the town.
Can you check with the attorney on that?
I can almost say it right off the top of my head.
I don't think we can.
Yeah, we just, because then we open up every other street to have, you know, their own posted limit that's, you know, you may have one side, not the state sign, but the town sign that says 35, and another one on the tree right behind it that says a different one, and
Right.
stopping them and saying it's 15
Right.
is,
And Stan, you're saying state regulation says we can't,
yeah,
correct? Is that-
Correct. We just went through this last year with when Bob Scott was here, him and I did we went and hit every road, every stop. We redid all the speed limits to make sure they were conformed with the state. There was a motion or an ask, something like what you're asking for another road that wanted to lower their speed limits. It was in the trailer park, actually.
Gotcha, over on Smith Road.
On the Smith Road, and because that's maintained by the town, it has to be a 25. They wanted it lowered to 15 as well in the trailer park, which makes total sense.
Sure.
Unfortunately, because it's a town road, we couldn't do that. We had to leave it marked at 25.
So up until this point, you say a year ago, in the 20 years I've lived on that road, there was never any speed limit sign until then.
Right.
So, I mean, can we?
Then
not-
it was 35.
Right, if it's
but
not
as long-
posted, it's by default 35.
Correct.
But with not posted, people went a lot slower.
Sure.
They see that 25, they say, oh, that means we can go 5 miles over, we can go 30. Go up there and go 30 on that road and have somebody step out from their driveway and see what happens.
Right.
You know,
I can sit down with Sam and Bob, and we can go through, there's a manual that has various signs that are approved by the state governments and the federal government. And we can come up with a sign, aside from a speed limit sign that says caution kids at play, something along the lines that give people the indication that it's a neighborhood street, please slow down and stuff like that. And we can bring that back at the first meeting in December, because we can still have plenty of
At
time.
least try to do something
Yeah.
if we can't, so, because we just spoke about this not too long ago, so I'm kind of coming up to speed on it as well, and that was my understanding, is that we can't lower it legally for state regulations, but that, I mean, at least be able to hear you out and do something for you guys, try to put some sort of another sign up there at some point that catches someone's eye. I don't know. I mean, I get it. They crank down my road too.
Dead end, no through traffic. I mean, a lot of people
Right.
come down there thinking that they're headed on Spec Pond Road. And
Right?
then they get to the end and find out they can't go
Yeah,
through.
no
They turn
outlet,
around
no
and scream
traffic.
back by.
If people want to look up what signs are, I would say automatically approved. There's a manual, it's called the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And you can download it on the internet, it's a couple of megabytes, but it'll have all the signs that would be sort of automatically approved and could be posted.
The only thing I was gonna suggest is putting a little public pressure on if there are delivery drivers or companies that are consistently speeding. One thing is the board might want to, you know, if it's XYZ delivery company, not to name any names, but
Call them direct.
it's, you know, the board could certainly, you know, put together a letter to the company. Ma'am, you could, you know, start a campaign on Facebook and embarrass the company about their drivers speeding. 3 dogs in a short period of time is really, but I mean, I just suggest that as an additional thing you might try.
I have mentioned to the drivers that I will call the company. And
Have you
that
called the
slows them down. They
Yeah.
usually slow down. The problem is drivers are so transient.
Well, that's why I'm suggesting going after the companies.
Yeah.
Right, call them because they know who's on what route. So, hate to see anybody.
We see it on every town road, day in, day out.
Oh, They,
That's crazy.
you know, they're, yeah,
You hear them coming, you just stay in the ditch.
Newly graded,
Let 'em
newly
go by.
painted means the speed limit double. That's true. Any other old business or a new business, rather?
let's give you any sort of answer at all. I know it's not what you were looking for, but it's a truthful answer. So,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
answer is that somebody's gonna have to get hit before anything can be
Well,
looked at.
I didn't get that answer.
Maybe I
out of
need to
this, but-
take it to the state.
I would contact your state legislator.
Okay,
Yeah.
And Laurie, like Nan said, he's gonna look at what other signs are available too, so.
Yeah.
If you take the 25-mile-an-hour speed down and put a new sign up and it'll change. You know, I mean, you said they went slower when there's no sign, no speed, so.
right.
It's something like-
We can take the sign down, that is.
There currently isn't a sign. I had a 15, which the town took down.
Yeah.
They said I can have it back, but I haven't seen it yet.
We can't put it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
But I did pay for it. And I got it back. And it did have a dead end sign as well on it.
It's put further off the road. a little bit.
That was my thought. We also have one posted on our property, which they didn't take down because I'm assuming they can't take it down. It's
No.
on our-
couple green guys with a flag.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you drive down Grand Bond Road, it's
Yeah.
somewhere, it's-
I mean, I can get everybody on that road to put a 15 on their mailbox. And, you know.
Except that I do.
Robert's Road is about 60.
So you had something?
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came out to vote in the election and everyone who worked so hard to make it run smooth, and that I am honored to be representative-elect. And I want to make sure that I am working closely with you 3 at the select board and keeping my promise to make sure that our town is well represented and our voice is being heard. And I'm hoping to get with Ned soon about some email notifications. So.
Thank you very much.
Well, congrats.
Actually, why don't we just plan on coming back to the second meeting in January after the legislative session is started, and we can get a quick update and say good, bad, and different things.
Just so you know, the selectman job pays better and you don't have to drive the car.
Yeah, well. I already got this one.
Yeah. That's $100 a year.
Yeah.
Mileage.
You don't get a fancy plate.
Yeah. Any other
Hey, good.
new business?
I was just wondering, are there any updates on the log cabin project?
I think what we did talk about forming a committee and stuff, right?
Yeah, we're gonna put out a notification for community volunteers to get on the committee and start to put some thoughts together on paper of what
It'll-
we can do.
It'll be in the flash email that comes out Thursday or Friday afternoon.
Okay, and remember to send us an email of that so we can look it over before it goes.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I think basically what we're doing is kind of approaching it like we did the committee to hire the administrator. We put it out there, accept volunteers, we through those volunteers, get a committee together, and we have decided or discussed, I should say, some timeframes with that. And so it is in the works. It didn't just get pushed aside.
Well, I know you were looking at bids for the roof too, as well, right?
Yeah, I did. So yes, I did get with two local contractors. I got with ADW Builders and DMS, and both of them gave me very similar prices. And what I did, like I said, it's gonna be hard for them to give us, here's a price for a metal roof, here's a price for a corrugated. To replace the asphalt roof that's on there, remove the shingles, put new roof on, we are looking around $700 per square. And Matt, my apologies, I didn't even think to talk to you. I've got those guys in my cell phone, so.
These are also just to get us an idea as to what it's gonna cost.
Yeah, that was
Doesn't mean
strictly
that-
just to get pricing,
Yeah.
and having you in the room reminds me that I wish I would have reached out to you. It seems as though from talking to other peoples and being a contractor myself, those are pretty realistic prices in today's world for removing and replacing asphalt shingles. $700 a square, give or take, which is insane, but that's the world we live in.
I would reach out to the company that we just hired to do Dr. Dinneman's old house.
Okay.
And I'm drawing a blank. There's a sign right in front of it. I'm drawing a blank
Okay.
on the name.
When.
Very reasonable.
If and when we do come to a time where we're going to actually accept bids, then Matt, I'll get with you and find out who that was, and we can get them in the bid process. For now, it was just strictly some sort of an idea of what the pricing generally is. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Sam? I just had one thing from last week. I apologize. I got kicked out of the Zoom meeting somehow. I think it shut down on me or something, but I missed there was an issue on the speeding cart or the speed cart from last week, and I guess I want to know where that fell, because we tried to get it fixed this year, and
So
obviously.
I brought that up, Sam.
Because we had another question about speeds on the road, so we're asking
right.
about the status of it. I know we had asked to have the battery, because we were told the batteries were needed to replace,
I think we just did that, didn't we?
Yep.
and then,
Yeah, we had it working,
Right.
and then we just had to clip that wire and it came back in. All of a sudden, the thing is like regrounded all through the whole cart, and something
Yeah.
went on between the time we had
what's
it
the status
working.
of it now?
Well, I'm hoping that, obviously, we had a mechanic and we didn't, so, the guys were trying to do their best to fix it, so I'm hoping that once the mechanic gets caught up a little bit, maybe by the spring, he can get it looked at.
So this was my suggestion, Sam, and this is where it falls in. And so that's what was mentioned at the last meeting. We've now got a mechanic. Our mechanic stepped into a swamp.
Oh, yeah,
He's buried.
I
We
understand.
need the thing working sooner than that. So my thought process was, and what I said at the last meeting, is we have been outsourcing different things.
Yeah.
And we've been outsourcing equipment that's costing thousands and thousands of dollars because it needs to be fixed. And because he can only do just so much. So my suggestion is, we outsource that cart and get it fixed, so we can start using it. Instead of waiting until he's caught up, because I don't know as he ever will be. He's trying and he's good at what he does from what I see. So I don't know why we can't figure out.
Where would that go?
I
I don't know. I'd have
connect
to
the
call the
car audio,
company.
see if John is, I mean, he's good with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're right on Route 4.
right on Route 4. and
Yeah,
he's
I
good with
know
that stuff.
that's
He's a
what it
guru,
is.
you
It's
know?
not a
John
complex
Pontomet,
system.
connect your car audio.
Yeah,
He may say that. If not, maybe the people that just did the radios at Oxy. I don't know, but there's gotta be somebody that can fix the thing. Maybe there's a tag on the back that says for service or maintenance, call such and such. But we've had a half a dozen people come in now and ask, and it's kicking the cart down the road, pun intended. That speed cart should be fixed I don't understand why it's
The
not.
winter months are hard for it because it relies, you have to push the snowbanks back to, it's kind of a hard time to use it, but certainly we can do it. The other option is we used to have a box that went on the phone pole.
Right, yeah.
Unfortunately, it's so far out of date, it's old, the company won't fix it, so we did get a quote on a new one, it's just, I think it's right about $5,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I looked them up, they're about $6,500 a piece.
Yeah, I think this one's $5,000 and it goes on the pole and it tells you speed and.
So that was part of what we,
Records all that stuff, so you can record, number of cars, direction, speed, time they went through, all that stuff, and get your road data as well.
so that was part of the conversation that you missed too, is we had talked about, I specifically, within a couple days of that meeting, came into a town, and when you see that thing, I'm telling you, it's coming down the hill into Hanover from Etna. And that sign flashes and your foot hits the brake.
I know that Mrs. Dow has offered to try to donate or get people to donate money to buy 2 or 3 of those to put on the main thoroughfares into downtown. We would have one to put everywhere in town. If we can, I have the quote on my desk. I think it's 4,900 and change, almost $5,000, but. That's up to the board.
To buy a whole new unit,
That, not a speed cart, but a one that goes up.
the solar ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. That would
So-
make more sense than dumping a ton of money. I mean, we got that for nothing, right?
The speed cart I got for free.
Yeah.
I'll buy it.
And I don't think it's gonna cost that much money to fix it. I think it's just a grounding issue or something.
Yeah.
It's wiring somewhere in there. So.
Just chasing a wire on it.
Is there, would you guys agree? I mean, I can reach out to John, he literally just.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
I just
Yeah.
just picked my car up there last night, so I can talk to him and see if he has any interest at all.
It's a big basis, wouldn't it?
No, I'm not tired, my friend, wait till we see it.
Actually, let's do that together because I have some parts back in a storage shed in Vermont
Okay,
that my wife was hoping to get rid of. That actually may help fix that and the other sign, because I used
Okay.
to be in that business, so
okay,
we might luck
So,
out and make it
that
work.
work, Ned?
Yeah, we'll get together
Okay.
later this week or at some point and figure it out.
Thank you, awesome, good question.
All right, so any other new business? All right, well, just want to say happy, you got some?
Yes, we have the non-public.
Yeah, we have non-public.
Non-public, yes.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you all for coming.
Happy Turkey Day.
Where we at?
There's one more chat.
Yes, there's a chat. John Lambert has asked, hang on, I gotta turn my chat on. Try asking local businesses to sponsor one and for the local business buy one. Just had the name on it. So maybe we can get, somebody's racing supply. Sponsor.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
We need a motion.
Second.
Thanks.
So I'll let you pull the plug.
No, actually, let's do you first.
And then. One's down.
You.
Thank you.
There's a red. Yeah.